I'm going to start with an oval. I'm going to put a line down the middle where my nose is. The mirror is tipped back a little bit, so I'm getting a little bit of a distortion where this half of the face is going to appear to be bigger than this half. So I'm not trying to go for fine features. I'm holding the pencil back on the end. I'm just trying to get a rough idea of my face. Also, I'm not trying to get any details at this point. And I'm going to keep it kind of rough so that if I want to make a change, I won't feel too attached to all the lines I've put down already. So if I keep it rough, I'm not going to want to hold on to those lines. So this is the first stage of a block-in. And then I'm going to do the measuring technique where I'm going to hold my pencil up to different parts of my face and compare one part to the other. So for instance, I'm going to look at width versus height. When I do that, I got the width of my cheekbones is about the same as this. So if I come across here, it's pretty close. I could probably come out here just a little bit wider. I'm going to look at the height of my forehead versus another proportion, like say the height of my forehead versus the height of my nose. And when I do that, it's about the same. So I'm pretty close. So once I get my basic proportions down, what I'm going to do is do a finer block-in. So I'm going to slow down a little bit. I'm going to try for a few more details. I'm going to try for some more planes on the picture. So this is a 3/4 view, so anything on the far side of the face that's turned away, it's going to appear narrower than I expect. Stuff on the closer side of the face, facial features on the closer side of the face are going to appear to be bigger than I expect. One rule of thumb is that your eyes aren't as big as you think they ought to be. And what I usually do is compare the width of the eye to the width of the base of the nose. So how wide is this versus how wide is that? And I've got beady little eyes, so mine are fairly small compared to the width of the nose. Notice I'm still keeping it fairly crude. So I'm trying not to overcommit to anything at this point. I want to keep it fairly basic. See, I can see a little bit of my ear out over here, which also helps me kind of mark off my position. I have my head tipped back a little bit, so my ear is a little bit lower than I expect, so it's actually going to be down here more. So I'm going to correct that. Okay, so that's the second block-in, and I'm going to go put on a few more details on here. Notice I'm mostly focusing on the head, neck, and the shoulders, not sweating a whole lot else. I'm going to look at my eyeballs and how far apart they are, so I'm going to measure the widths. It just looks kind of wrong to me, so I'm going to measure the width between the outside edges of the eyes compared to something on the front. When I do that, it's about from here to here. So yeah, I'm a little narrow. So what I'm going to do is pop this eye out just a little bit on this side. I'm going to take this eye out here on this side a little bit. I was looking a little bit narrow-eyed to myself. A little bit too squinty and focused in the middle of the face. Okay, so at this point, if you've got kind of a mess of lines that are confusing you, what you can do is take your eraser and just lighten them up, erase out the stuff you don't think is helping you. Any mistakes that you can identify, if you want to get rid of those at this point, that's fine. Now I'm going to turn and focus a little bit closer now. I'm going to try to go for finer detail, so I'm going to rest my hand on the paper. I'm going to try to follow the contours as closely as I can. And go for nuances. The line for the mouth, center line for the mouth, and the eyes and the nose are going to be roughly parallel to each other. So that's one way to kind of keep the mouth from tipping and shifting all over the place. I'm still working with my HB pencil. I'm probably going to switch over to my B when I get a little bit farther in. I'm focusing a little bit too much on one spot, so I'm going to work out over here a little bit and maybe start the glasses. Okay, I'm going to indicate the cheekbones a little bit. I can't see a lot because the light in my studio is kind of dim right now, but I can see a few features. I can see my cheekbone kind of indenting right here like that. And then this is going to curve in a little bit, and it's going to get out wider about here. And then it's going to round over, come down in through here like that. So I get a little bit of the jowls out here. This is looking just a little bit narrow when I look in the mirror, but when I hit my position correctly, it looks pretty good, but I think I need to come out just a little bit wider. I'm trying to narrow my cheekbones in just a little bit too much. And top of the ear is about at the bottom of this eye here. Okay. I've given myself fuller lips than I actually have, so I'm going to come back in and correct that. I'm going to take my eraser and get rid of some of that. The reason why I knew that was because I don't have quite enough room in here, and that's because the lips were coming down too far. Remember, my nose and my forehead are about the same, so I'm taking that back down in here. When I get up off the glasses, this side's going to indent a little bit. The side of the forehead's going to indent. It's not going to be way far out. I don't usually fuss with hair a whole lot besides just putting a few directional lines on there just to give you a general idea of where the hair is flowing. Life is short, and if you're doing a line drawing, trying to pick out all the individual hairs is just not worth it. I didn't do much on the ear to start with, so I'm going to do sort of a block in right now just to get some basic shapes on there. Get that started. Neck is coming out over here. Back of my hair is over here, so that's another detail I can add in. Neck on this side is going to indent, so that's where this is coming down into here. That's the edge of your neck, and top of my chest, collarbones coming through here like this. So we get a shape like that. My eyes are still pretty rough, so I'm going to get those started. Sometimes folks will save the eyes to the very, very end, and that's not a lot of fun usually because that's when all the pressure starts. Okay, now I'm going to switch over to my 4B pencil, and I'm going to go a little bit darker now and try to make the lines just a little more elegant. Going for little nuances.